This is Dr. Anita with another diamond moment. As we know, the diamonds of our lives are produced through time, heat, and pressure. The things that we are experiencing, if we're willing to process those things, we will be able to gather great wealth, great knowledge, great understanding, and phenomenal personal growth. If you've been with me, hopefully you have been keeping up. We have been evaluating a documentary by world-renowned gospel recording artist Kirk Franklin. If you have not, please go back over the last 6 to 7 episodes and listen to what we have been discussing and sharing. We've been talking about having difficult conversations, asking ourselves really tough questions, and also evaluating where the information that is running our lives originated. Did it originate out of antiquated voices? Maybe from generations past, maybe from our own thoughts and perceptions that are no longer applicable for where we are in life. In order for us to move forward, in order for anyone to be able to process the issues of their life, you must be willing to take a really deep dive and also be willing to tell yourself the truth. This is the times when we've talked about being your own best friend, giving yourself the advice that you would give to someone that you love and care about. And in that, we're looking and evaluating more like a case study, the documentary of Kirk Franklin's life. As we looked through and we saw the different generations that were involved in his life and then how he in turn relates to the generations beneath him or under him, younger than him. We get a lot of information. So many times it's easier to evaluate someone else's life. Hopefully we see a correlation, we see something that we have in common with that person. But usually it's much easier to evaluate someone else's life than it is our own. Why? Because sometimes we've never come to the point of recognizing the issues that have actually contributed to the place that we're in right now. Sometimes we can see what's going on, as scripture says, you can get the speck out of your brother's eye and you can't see the whole telephone pole or beam in your eye. So sometimes it's easier to reflect what we're seeing. And when we're at a place where our life, our defenses enable us to see that same thing in our own life. Anytime you're watching or looking at autobiographies and things of that nature, you're able to see people come to that place of recognition where maybe everything was in plain sight, but their defenses did not allow them to recognize what was taking place. You hear this a lot with abuse victims, that they rationalized an act that was perpetrated against them in such a way that it was years and years and years and years later before they were ever able to connect that action with the adult words that brought them to a place of seeking healing and restoration. This happens all the time. But sometimes you can look at someone else's life and you can see in their life something that just kind of touches you. We've been talking about that inner voice, the intuition, that knowing, that thing that's inside of you that's seeking to order and direct your steps, but that sometimes we continue to push down. But there are times when we can look at someone else's life and it actually connect us back to events in our own lives. You can look at Kirk Franklin's story in that way. You can look at the different voices that were causing the insecurities in his life. And you may also have experienced insecurities in your life. What antiquated voices spoke to you that caused something to get off track in your life that you've never corrected, but has ended up hindering you in some way? Is it someone who in your past who hit on one of your insecurities? You know, as teens, we're always so very aware of our appearance, that our hair is absolutely perfect, that our skin does not have a blemish, that we're the right weight, that we wear the right clothes, that we have all of these different requirements for ourselves that sometimes don't go away as we age. Sometimes that insecurity is so innately imprinted in who we view ourselves as, that we can be 40, 50, 60 years old and still concerned about those things, feeling as though if I don't look exactly right, if my hair isn't right, if my this isn't right, if my that isn't right, that I won't be popular, I won't be accepted, I won't be received. And so we have to challenge again those limiting thoughts, because they can hinder you from becoming and being the functioning adult that you want to be. That person who does have maturity, that person who is able to discern. And maybe that's not where your issue came up. Maybe it was your family of origin, maybe being poor or coming from a single family household. Maybe you were the oldest child and it was your responsibility to take care of all the younger children, and you feel as though you lost out on your childhood. So therefore, the things that people would normally be doing at this age in life, you're doing what somebody 20, 30 years younger is doing, because you feel as though you were left out. Those thoughts, that not coming to grips with who you are and with your past, not being okay to be the age that you are now, to look like you look, and to be able to do the best that you can with what you have. Some of those things are ingrained in these antiquated voices, some of those voices emanating from within. Sometimes you may have been that person who just learned disabilities and insecurities. And it can happen in a way that, oh, little so-and-so is just not, they just can't do that. And you have accepted that as truth. You've accepted that there's something about you that limits you from being able to do whatever it is that you may want to do. You see so many times people who have actual physical disabilities and how they've overcome. People who have been, have birth defects, or people who have been in horrific accidents and maybe have suffered amputations, but they've overcome those limitations and are leading a life that's exemplary. It's like, wow, how did they do that? I remember seeing a short video on a lady who had no arms, and she learned how to do everything with her feet. She was a mother. She had a baby. She learned how to take care of her baby using her feet. So sometimes some of the antiquated voices that are telling us you can't do that, you don't have the wherewithal to do that. Yeah, that other person could do it, but they're not you. Sometimes we get it in terms of the insecurities of learning. You know, sometimes you, maybe as a young person, you were called to go up to the front of the class and maybe complete a math problem. And you got up to go up there, and for whatever reason, it's just everything blanked out and you got it wrong. And instead of your fellow students, your peer group, you know, saying, oh, you'll get it next time, they laughed. And as a result, you have been hesitant to be on the forefront in anything, just in case you're not able to complete the task. Sometimes your gifts make others insecure, and therefore they try to downplay the wonder of what you're able to do. Maybe you were very outgoing as a young person, and you got maybe had some musical ability, but that musical ability was not encouraged, and you felt as though maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I need to let this go. And because of that, you've always felt as though an opportunity passed you by, that there was something else you could have done or been. And so when we're looking at how these antiquated voices, even the antiquated voices of our mind, can come in and stop us from what we want to do and where we want to be. So there are some youth who didn't have the opportunity to maybe participate in sports because they needed to help their family to make money. You know, there's a lot of kids who are not just working in high school to be able to get the latest sneakers. They're working to help keep the lights on, to help put food on the table. And if you were one of those teens as you grew up and you keep having that reoccurring voice that I missed something that would have made me like other people, those are the type antiquated voices that we need to challenge, we need to look at, we need to dismiss, because we need to look at them in the light of being an adult, of understanding that those experiences happened to someone who was much less mature than you are at this stage. And you do not have to live the rest of your life feeling inferior for any reason. When you see the lives of people like Shaquille O'Neal, who talked about being tall, or those who were extremely short, maybe those who were overweight or being too thin, and you've compared yourself with others due to comments that were made about you, it may be time to look at those antiquated voices, some originating outside of ourselves, but many being continued and reinforced by the voices inside of ourselves. We're going to continue challenging limiting beliefs. We're going to continue tough conversations, and we're going to continue looking at and evaluating and dismissing the antiquated voices of our lives. I hope that you will, if you haven't, listen to Kirk Franklin's Father's Day documentary, 38 minutes, free on YouTube. Go back and listen to the last 7 to 8 broadcasts. Bring yourself up to speed, because we're moving forward in becoming who we were meant to be. If you have not, please visit my website at www.DrAnitaMc.com. That's DrAnitaMc.com. Sign up for our mailing list. I'm going to begin doing some things very shortly, and you want to be a part of that. Also, please join me on Wisdom. You have the opportunity to talk, ask me questions in real time, and to get involved in the talks that are taking place there. If not, join me on FanBase. I want to include you in everything that we're doing, and it's really necessary for me to be able to have access to you and to be able to reach out to you. Again, this is Dr. Anita. Never forget to invest in yourself. Becoming is a process, and that process has stages.